Back at it again, television family. Thanks for starting your day with us. It's Thursday, 4th day of May, 2023. I'm Dan Kuntz. This is Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. It's very warm. Thursday morning, 63 degrees. Here in downtown, we're a good 6 degrees warmer now than we were yesterday at this time. One more day of the warm stuff, and then things are going to dramatically change. Late in the afternoon, into the early evening hours, here comes the big change in the weather. It's going to get windy. It's going to get rainy. We're going to have a heavy rain overnight tonight into Friday morning. By the time we get going tomorrow morning at this time, it will be raining pretty hard. In fact, we have a flood watch in effect. Starts later on this afternoon, goes through tomorrow night. It's the combination of very warm temperatures, which is creating quite a bit of snowmelt. In the upper elevations where there's still snow, it's melting at a rather rapid rate, and with some significant rain possible. You put those two things together, we're on a flood watch for most of our viewing area. We'll have some details on that. We're also going to show you how high and how fast the Wenatchee River is running in Monitor, and the Aniat River is running in Aniat. They're up. The banks are getting pretty full there on those two rivers. We'll show you that. It is Thursday, Pause for Pets from our friends at the Wenatchee Valley Humane Society. Tessa the dog needs a home. Earlier in the week, our good friend Jefferson Robbins, our news director, had a chance to catch up with Alana Maynor. She is spearheading the group called Rural People's Voice. It's a fascinating conversation with her. You don't want to miss that. That's in the back half of the program. Plus sports, not a lot to talk about. The Mariners won in extra innings against the worst club in Major League Baseball. Whatever prep happened yesterday, we'll have as well. Of course, we'll preview the Kraken and the Stars for Game 2 of their series later on tonight. And we're getting ready for Apple Blossom Weekend. But again, huge change in the weather. It's going to start happening late this afternoon into the early evening hours. Those details will be coming your way right after we see what's going on out there on this Thursday with our cameras around the valley, courtesy of Localtel's Sky-Fi division. If it wasn't for these towers, we wouldn't have these cameras. Pretty nice view. Again, that is zoomed way back. Few more high clouds this morning than we had yesterday. It was a beautiful day yesterday. Almost set a record. Not quite. Our high yesterday was 85, just 2 degrees off the record. Our normal high is 68, so it was very, very warm for this time of the year. We got 14 hours and 36 minutes of daylight today. Days are definitely getting longer. Good morning to the Heights. And all of Wenatchee Valley, for that matter, from our Wenatchee Heights camera. Let's check out Badger Mountain, looking back towards the valley. Good morning to Badger. There is the Wenatchee Valley Super Oval on the left-hand side of your screen. They got racing this weekend. They normally don't race on the big weekend of Apple Blossom, but the way the calendar worked out this year, they are racing this weekend at WVS. So, boy, there's no lack of anything to do this weekend. Lots of stuff going on. Too bad Mother Nature isn't going to be cooperating. Good view of the north side of the Wenatchee Valley from our Badger Mountain camera. Leavenworth, I'm sure, is looking good. Everybody's really green right now. That includes Leavenworth. Good morning to Leavenworth. Still a few orchards hanging around out there. Leavenworth hasn't quite had the encroachment of housing developments that the Wenatchee Valley has, with the orchards going out and the developments going in, but it's still going on in Leavenworth, just at a much smaller clip. Good morning to the Bavarian Village. And finally, way up to McNeil Canyon, peeking out over the ridge and looking out towards Lake Chelan. That's the Chelan Butte on your left. We have a camera up there, as you all know. We use it quite often. And a beautiful view of the mountain. Look how much the snow has receded from the mountains high above Holden Village and Stehekin. It is melting rather rapidly, and now we got rain coming, maybe some heavy rain. This is going to be a very dramatic transition that's coming our way. But first, let's take a look at the river levels. This is the Wenatchee River at Monitor. That blue bar that you see there is a 1 week period. So the Wenatchee River, where it flows through the Monitor area, is up about 5 feet in the course of a week. A week ago Thursday at 5 a.m., it was at 19.5 feet. This morning at 5 a.m., exactly 1 week, it's at 24.17 feet. So it has risen about 5 feet in the course of a week. That's a lot, but it's nowhere near the record, which was 30 feet. That was set back in November of 1995. And the Aniat River near Aniat is also climbing up pretty good. And look how close it's getting to the record on the banks. That was 11.20 feet about in June of 1999. We had a lot of snow in the winter of 98, 99, and that all came melting down. So the Aniat River is up about 3 feet in the course of a week. It was 7.8. It was 7 feet 8 inches just a week ago. Now it's 10.24 on the scale. So yeah, both the Wenatchee River monitor and the Aniat River near Aniat is going rather fast as far as cubic feet per second, and it's also climbing high up the banks. Not surprising for this time of the year. Okay, from the National Weather Service, buckle your seatbelts. Here we go, kids. We have a flood watch, begins this afternoon, goes through tomorrow night. Slight chance of showers with a little bit of thunderstorms. Now, most of the thunderstorms are going to be relegated to the east of us. Moses Lake could get a thunderstorm, Ritzville, Spokane, the Idaho Panhandle to the south of us. They're more susceptible to thunderstorms. Not so much here. But as we go deeper into the day, we will increase our chance of rain with a high of 86. We are going to have some rain tonight, perhaps some heavy rain, maybe even some thunderstorms. It's going to be breezy. It's going to be a lot cooler as the system comes barreling in all the way down to 51 for the overnight low. And we are talking about significant rain. A half an inch of rain is possible overnight Thursday into Friday. When we get up tomorrow morning at this time and we visit, it will be raining, and will be raining pretty heavily. And look at that, we're only going to get to 60 degrees, a 26-degree difference between the afternoon high today and the afternoon high on Friday. We're going to go from well above normal to well below normal in less than 24 hours. I told you this thing is packing a punch. Friday night for the Les Schwab Classy Chassis Parade, yeah, we could get wet. We could get wet. It's supposed to rain most of the day Friday. It will eventually taper off Friday night, but maybe not in time for the Classy Chassis Parade. Our broadcast begins at 6 o'clock on Friday night. We may be with umbrellas and rain slickers on Graham Road. And then for the big day, Saturday, Stew Milk Growers Grand Parade, going to be cool, but we should be dry. The rain should be done by the time the parade begins at Triangle Park at 11 a.m. And don't forget, we will have live coverage of that as well here on the NCW Live channel. But yeah, it's going to be sweatshirt weather and maybe a bumper shoot. Very chilly Saturday night, 42 for the overnight low. Little bit of some sun breaks on Sunday as this system begins to exit the area, but it's bringing in some cool air too. As you can see, only 61 for the afternoon high on Sunday. Monday we improve a little bit temperature-wise, but we still have a little bit of rain, and then things rebound a little bit sunshine-wise and temperature-wise on Tuesday and Wednesday. But again, the big story, this rather dramatic transition is coming our way tonight as a strong trough, a low pressure slides right on into the area. Going to bring us some rain, maybe some thunderstorms, and some windy conditions as well. 7 minutes after the hour, going to take a break, then we'll have your headlines. You're watching the Thursday edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Live channel.
What's the best way to attract a wide variety of beautiful birds to your backyard? By offering the birds the right foods in expertly designed bird feeders from Wild Birds Unlimited. Whether you've been feeding the birds for a while or are just getting started, let our backyard bird feeding specialists show you how to add a little joy to your life and make nature a part of every day. Shop now for exclusive bird foods, feeders, hardware, and more. Wild Birds Unlimited. Products designed by experts. Trusted local advice.
Experience memories that will last forever on a Sunchaser pontoon boat from Bob File Boats and Motors. If you're looking to get out fishing with your buddies or just enjoying time on the water with friends, a Sunchaser pontoon boat is a great choice. Owning a Sunchaser is more than just an incredible feeling of freedom and exhilaration. It's about taking that indulgence to the next level. See the full line of Sunchaser pontoon boats at Bob File Boats and Motors on Sunset Highway in East Wenatchee or online at bobfile.com.
When you call Dick's Heating and Air Conditioning, you're calling on 35 plus years of experience in the Wenatchee Valley. Spending extra time in your home, you may have discovered an unwanted aroma. Stinky feet, pets, who knows what. Call Dick's today about installing their Train Clean Effects electronic air cleaner or a Rheem Halo ultraviolet air purifier. Either way, the air quality in your home will be improved. Proudly servicing all of North Central Washington, call 884-6444 today.
The agents of Kennedy Real Estate Group are committed to providing the ideal client experience. We believe in the power of relationships. Why? Because we don't just work here, we live here. From the nonprofits we serve, the parks where we play, and the local businesses we support, our team understands the value of living in the Wenatchee Valley. Let's begin your real estate story.
Have some high clouds floating around out there. It's very mild, 63 degrees again In the mid-80s today, going to see a little bit more cloud cover, and as the day progresses, the weather is going to deteriorate. By sunset tonight, some serious rain, temperatures drop, and we have a flood watch in effect from this afternoon until tomorrow night with some heavy rain overnight into Friday morning. All right, it's 10 minutes after the hour. Governor Jay Inslee announcing a special session. He's calling the state legislature back to work to Olympia. They need to focus on passing a new drug possession law. In 2021, the Washington Supreme Court overturned the state's felony drug possession law and a temporary misdemeanor policy. The policy expires on July 1st, and a new statewide policy was the last remaining thing on the agenda that the legislators didn't do during their regular session, which ended on April 23rd. So the special session begins May 16th. That's a Tuesday. Special sessions usually last 30 days, but Inslee said legislators could finish up in just a couple of days if they come to an agreed-upon proposal. Representatives Kim Schreier and Dan Newhouse have teamed up together to introduce the Enable Act. The idea is to support farmers who voluntarily participate in conservation programs. The bipartisan legislation will permanently establish the State Acres for Wildlife Enhancement, or SAFE as it's being called. It's an initiative under the Conservation Reserve Program that ensures that farmers who want to participate in the program can. There is currently a cap on how much land can be included in the Conservation Reserve Program in Douglas County and others like it, which makes participation difficult for farmers who want to do it. The Enable Act would revert a previous policy from the 2014 Farm Bill to allow SAFE and other conservation programs to be waived from the cap if it meets USDA and counties' shared goals. Schreier's office said she will be pushing for this legislation to be included as the House Committee on Agriculture begins this year's Farm Bill process. Wenatchee drivers may see some one-lane flagger-controlled traffic between Thurston Street and the pedestrian bridge this month. The Chelan County PUD is working on removing 3 transmission wires from overhead utility poles along Worthen Street. Crews will replace a few poles, and the tops of transmission poles will going to be reconfigured to maintain reliable service. Parking along Worthen Street will be unavailable at times, and there may be periodic road closures of 5 to 10 minutes at different times and in different areas. Crews will be working on maintenance Tuesday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. through the end of this month. Colonel Sarah Babbitt, a graduate of Eastmont High School, also went to Washington State University, got her degree there, and for the last 23 years, she's been an airman in the United States Air Force. She's even a vice commander of Space Base Delta One in Colorado. But this weekend, she's right here in the big city. She's the Washington State Apple Blossom Festival Grand Parade Grand Marshal. We caught up with her on a beautiful day at Memorial Park to hear her reaction to being selected as Grand Marshal and learn more about what it is that she does.
I was shocked when they told me I was going to be the Grand Marshal because I grew up in this town. You know, I've been to 1,000 apple blossoms and seen 1,000 Grand Marshals, and it was always just somebody super special that came. And so to be in that class of people in that company, it's pretty humbling. I'm an airman, so I'm Air Force still, but I work on a Space Force base. So it's a very interesting dynamic. As an airman, we support all the space guys, which we call the guardians, right? So the airmen do all of, you can think of me as like the town mayor for the base, right? So I make sure the cops are there, all the communications systems work, everything in the support world, all the engineering, the buildings get built where we want them. I'm like the master planner for the base. And then the space operators, the guardians from the United States Space Force, they are the operators. So they're actually doing space missions from my base. And I and the other airmen underneath me support that mission and those people so that all they can focus on is operations in space, which is the new high ground. So it's important that they get it right. So I'm proud to be a part of it. There's only 3 bases really that are space-based deltas, like I'm assigned to, in the entire Air Force. So to be a part of it at its kind of beginnings, really, because the Space Force just became a thing in 2019. So we're still pretty new. So to be able to help them out and get their feet under them as a new branch of the service is really exciting. When I graduated high school here from Eastmont, I did 2 years at Wenatchee Valley College. So I got my AA degree, and then I transferred to Washington State University, where I joined ROTC and met my husband, most importantly, and he's just off camera. And did 2 years at WSU to finish my degree and finish the ROTC program, because at that time they had a 2-year program to commission. and then commissioned in 2000 and have been in the Air Force ever since on active duty. I don't get to travel home very often at all, maybe once a year, and it's usually around the holidays, so either Thanksgiving or Christmas. So coming home when it's beautiful outside is like a special gift.
And Bob Mast, another local guy, is going to be honored this weekend. He came to the Wenatchee Valley in 2003 to help lead CMI Orchards. 10 years later, he was named the president of CMI Orchards, and this year he's been recognized as the Apple Citizen of the Year, all part, of course, of the Washington State Apple Blossom Festival. Bob joined us at Memorial Park this week to talk about his career, what he has to do as the Apple Citizen of the Year, and the surprise it was when he realized he was going to be the guy.
My name is Bob Mast, and I'm the president of CMI Orchards. I've been at CMI almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years in October. I actually grew up in Phoenix, so I'm a transplant up here from Phoenix, moved up 20 years ago, and absolutely love it up here. Love the outdoors. CMI Orchards, we shipped over 65 countries across the globe. Obviously a lot of fruit here in North America. We do apples, is our biggest commodity, obviously. So we do apples, pears, and cherries. We do some imports as well that supplement our growers' fruit to make sure that we can go year-round with customers, and just have a very diverse growing region all the way from the southern border, bordering Oregon, all the way up to the northern part of the border, bordering Canada. So we represent many growers across the state, and just are blessed to be working with them. I was actually overwhelmingly shocked 2 years ago when Jennifer Witherby won the award. I was part of the group that did the ruse with her to make it a surprise for her over at Pybus Market in the convention gathering area they have. 2 years later, my team's doing the exact same thing to me. I didn't even see it coming. And I was just overwhelmed with gratitude and just an amazing humbleness with the folks that have won this award before me. I mean, you look at Grady Oval and Tom Matheson and Jim Wade and the McDougall family, and just really prominent folks in our industry, and just really kind of overwhelmed that, you know, I would be recognized along with that group. I guess one of my big duties is to ride in the parade and get my parade wave down. So I told my wife I'd rather just wear a cap this year and maybe start a new tradition of the tipping of the cap in the parade. But obviously we support the industry. Stamild has done a really nice job building this parade into a grand function over the years. They deserve a lot of credit for that, and we're happy to be a part of it. We're going to have a CMI float, I think, in the parade as well. I tell people when I try to entice them to come visit us in Wenatchee, I said there is no more beautiful time than apple blossom time of the year. And you know, with all the activities going on with the Classy Chassis Car Parade and the parade, and just the green mountains in the foreground, the rushing rivers, the cascades with snow on it, and apple blossoms and pear blossoms at the same time. I mean, there is no place on earth that's prettier than that at that time. So that's what I think about at Apple Blossom. People coming together just in God's creation.
That's what's making news at 19 minutes after the hour. We'll have a newscast for you tonight, as we always endeavor to do. At 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock, we think it's important that our viewers be informed on what's going on in our area with Eric and Grant at 5, 6, and 10. And you can also watch our news on our YouTube page, on our homepage, and on our Facebook page. And at the bottom of the screen are the ways you can get a hold of us if you want to get a hold of us. When we come back, sports, the Obscura holiday. Today in history, some celebrity birthdays, pause for pets, and a great interview from Jefferson Robbins. It's all coming up. You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Live channel.
The Washington State Apple Blossom Festival is here, and NCW Live Channel has you covered. Join us for the Stamild Growers Grand Parade Saturday, May 6th at 11 a.m. Coverage is brought to you by Bob's Apple Barrel Bark, Coldwell Banker Cascade, Global Car Care, Kennedy Real Estate Group, and Prestige Senior Living at East Wenatchee. NCW Life Channel, your official Washington State Apple Blossom Festival TV station.
Hi everybody, Dan Kuntz alongside Jesse Coble from Alpine Air. My heat pump there's like steam coming out of it. It's making weird noises. Is this something I need to be concerned about?
No, Dan, that's normal operation. Refrigeration technology steals heat from the outside, transfers it to the inside, and it creates frost on your heat pump. The defrost cycle melts that off, which creates steam and a little bit of noise.
That makes sense. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Alpine Air. For heat and air, call Alpine Air. Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you.
So, how's Evan?
Well, he's all grown up now, but I worry about him.
So many dangers in the world. COVID, the environment, the opioid epidemic.
Yeah, I hear opioid misuse is on the rise.
I don't even know how to start a conversation with him.
This might help. GetTheFactsRx.com. There's a whole section on how to talk about opioids with your family.
Offer support, not judgment. Cool.
Talk to your family about the dangers of opioids. Visit GetTheFactsRx.com.
21 minutes after the hour, Game 2 between the Kraken and the Stars is tonight. Down in Dallas, of course, Seattle has a 1-0 lead, and they have done really good on the road in the postseason. They've played 5 games away from home and won 4 of them. They hope to do it again tonight. American Airlines Arena, the Stars, they'll drop the puck at 6:30 on ESPN. Mariners exploded for 5 runs in the 10th inning, beat Oakland last night, 7-2. They struggled offensively through the first part of the game. They trailed 2-0 into the 7th, and then Jose Caballero came through with an RBI base hit. A.J. Pollock delivered the blow that would send it into extra innings, and Eugenio Suarez was the hero last night.
2-1 ball game, 3-2 to Pollock. High drive, left field, deep, carry, gone! Home run, A.J. Pollock, it's a new ball game. 2-2 here in the 9th. That's hit well to the gap in right center field. Going back, and it is gone! Eugenio Suarez, a 3-run homer. And the Mariners have a 5-2 lead here in the 10th. Gino breaking an 0 for 11 with his 3rd home run. RBI total to 18. There you go. Line drive, that'll score Teo. Big Cal, he's coming around. He's going to score. J.P. Crawford rings the bell. 2-run single and a Mariner lead expands to 7-2, top 10. The final piece of the victory here, 1-2 from Gott. They got him. And he'll tag, and that'll do it. The Mariners rally and get an emotional 7-2. Feel real good victory here tonight to even up the road trip at 4-4. They win the series and look for a sweep tomorrow.
Dave Sims with a call on Root Sports Northwest. Manager Scott Service says the offense needs to do a better job of backing up the really good pitching they've been getting.
Big night by Caballero, kind of picking up the 1 run there in the 8th, sets it up, and then A.J. Pollock, 11-pitch at bat, hits a home run, a huge hit in the game. You know, the way we were situational hitting, kind of needed a home run. And, you know, he came through, and then, you know, 10th inning and the extra inning stuff starting to turn in our favor again. Got to have a big at bat. You got to get a big hit, and Gino stepped up tonight. But again, pitching, the guys were really sharp tonight. Guys out of the bullpen. Matt Brash gives us an inning and 2/3, coming in a big spot there, stranding that runner to keep it at 1 run to give us a chance. So not the prettiest win, but they don't ask how you got there as long as you get there, and we got there. So you know, we'll come back tomorrow, try to sweep this series. But again, plenty to work on. Gino's very aware of it. He is used to hitting home runs, and lots of them, and they just haven't happened so far. But I put a great swing on. That's Gino at his best, using a big part of the field. And again, that happens when you're not really looking for it to happen. You're just trying to get that big run in that spot, and then, you know, he got a big swing and got it up in the air. So again, a lot of good at bats late. Certainly that their bullpen has struggled, but we took advantage of it. And you know, we were kind of down to our last out or two, and we need somebody to step up clutch, and we were able to get some big hits finally.
And they go for the sweep against the A's. It's a 12:37 first pitch in Oakland. Good seats, by the way, still available, or you can watch it on Root Sports Northwest. Not a lot going on in the world of prep action yesterday. One score in baseball to pass the line, actually two of them. Clay Holmes sweeps a doubleheader in Winthrop yesterday, as you see there. Scheduled today, it looks like this. Afraid begins the CWAC district playoffs. It's already that time of the year. They'll be in Othello at 1 o'clock. Waterville Mansell will host Cascade this afternoon at 4:30. Pateris is at Moses Lake Christian. Softball. Clay Elum's softball team also victorious at Liberty Bell. They swept the Mountain Lions 17-5 and 17-0. And Tenaska took down Republic in just a single game, 6-2. The schedule, Omak will host Elmira, Cooley, Heartline, Seals, and Crofts in the first game of a doubleheader today at 3 o'clock. Tenaska visits Inchelium at 3:30. Brewster will host Okanagan at 4:30. Kashmir is at Kittitas. Soccer scores, Quincy blanked Omak 6-0. Brewster beat Orville 7-1. There are no games on the schedule today, and the prep tennis season winds down. Last league matches of the year. Eastmont's at Wenatchee. Moses Lake will host Ike. Ephrata is at Othello. Quincy will host Kashmir. Chelan's in Okanagan. And Tenaska travels to Liberty Bell. And those are just some of the games that people are playing on this 4th day of May. May the 4th be with you. Star Wars Day. I mean, come on. Star Wars. What a game changer that was when I was a kid. We went to see Star Wars at the Columbia Cinema when it came out in the summer of '77. I think we went like 6 times in 7 days. Couldn't get enough of the movie. And Star Wars, all of the movies are at least pretty good. I really liked, of course, the first 3, because the first 3 I all saw in the theater, which is really the only way to experience Star Wars. George Lucas really wanted to make a Flash Gordon movie. That was the idea in the early 70s, but the people who owned the rights to Flash Gordon wouldn't sell him the rights, so he made up his own story. He wrote a 2-page draft, a story outline, submitted it to Universal. They said no. Submitted it to Disney. They said no. Submitted it to United Artists. They said no. Submitted it to 20th Century Fox, who was on the verge of bankruptcy, and they said, sure, why not? We'll get you a chance at making this Star Wars movie, George. And he did something really, really smart. While they were filming the 1977 film, which had a very bare-bones budget. One of the reasons they shot the whole movie in Great Britain, because it was cheaper there. They didn't have to worry about unions and things like that. I had a very small budget for the first Star Wars movie back in 1976-77. While they were shooting the movie, George Lucas made a deal with 20th Century Fox. He took a $500,000 pay cut for directing and writing the movie. In exchange for that, he would get all the merchandising rights to the Star Wars characters and the films. Smart move, George. Made him a billionaire. Last I checked, the Star Wars franchise is worth about $80 billion. Of course, now Disney owns Star Wars. If you ever get a chance to see any of the 9 Star Wars movies, and apparently they're making more, go to them in a theater. Nothing wrong with a nice home theater with a nice 4K TV, but it's not the same as the big screen in the theater. Happy Star Wars Day, 28 minutes after the hour. Today in history, happy birthday to Major League Baseball. That's the monument at the site of the very first Major League Baseball game, May 4th, 1871, 152 years ago today. The Cleveland Forest Cities and the Fort Wayne Kia Congas officially played the very first Major League game. Fort Wayne won. The final was 2-0. It was a 4-hit shutout by Bobby Matthews. The catcher is by the name of Bill Lennon, scored the very first run in Major League Baseball history 152 years ago today, and we'll revisit this a little bit later on. 119 years ago today, we got the big ditch. It was a formal deal. We went ahead and bought the Panama Canal, or the rights to dig the Panama Canal, from the French. The French, of course, started the big ditch in 1881. They tried for 13 years, and in 1894, they just gave up. Saying, this ain't happening. Of course, Teddy Roosevelt wanted to build the canal and own the canal. Colombia wasn't real interested in it, so he just fomented a revolution that didn't really happen. And they carved out the country of Panama from Colombia, which is why we gave it back to them. It was kind of underhanded. We paid the French $40 million for the work they had done so far and all the equipment they left behind. So we wrote them a check for $40 million. We paid the new country of Panama $10 million plus $250,000 a year. And for Colombia, we gave them $10 million and free passageway through the big ditch. So Colombia wasn't completely left out. They got $10 million, and they don't have to pay anytime they go through the Panama Canal, like they have a really big Navy. We took over the Panama Canal 119 years ago today, and now Panama has it, as they should. Happy 64th birthday to the very first Grammy Awards. The first Grammy Awards are held. Record of the year for 1959, Volare. Volare by Domenico Modugno. It was also Song of the Year. Nominated for Song of the Year, the Chipmunk Song. I kid you not. Best Country and Western Performance, Tom Dooley by the Kingston Trio. Tom Dooley is not a country and western song. Best Rhythm and Blues Song, Tequila by the Champs. That is not a rhythm and blues song. Bad start to the Grammys back in this state, 1959. 53 years ago today. The names: Jeffrey Miller, 20, shot in the mouth, killed instantly. The famous photograph features Marianne Vecchio standing beside him, kneeling beside him, crying. She was a 16-year-old runaway. She wasn't even supposed to be in Kent State. She actually got hate mail for protesting. She wasn't even protesting. She was walking through campus. Jeffrey Miller, 20, shot in the mouth, killed instantly. Allison Krauss, 19, shot in the chest, died later that day. Bill Schroeder, 19, shot in the chest, died later that day. Sandy Shire, 20 years old, shot in the neck, bled to death. Kent State, 53 years ago today. And finally, back to where we started. 48 years ago today, and exactly 150 years after the very first Major League Baseball game and Bill Lennon scoring the very first run in Major League Baseball history, Bob Watson of the Houston Astros races around the bases. He was in front of Milt May. Milt May hit a home run. Bob Watson was on base. Bob Watson touched home plate and scored the 1 millionth run in Major League Baseball history. It was back in 1976. By the way, I checked this morning. In Major League Baseball history, there have been 2,126,333 runs scored. I'm no expert. That's a lot of runs. Finally, birthdays. If you've ever channel flipped on PBS, you've come across the documentary Alone in the Wilderness. That's the guy who made it. Dick Proenneke, born and raised in the Midwest in an Iowa farm, moved to Alaska after World War II, became a heavy mechanic on the Alaska pipelines and all the stuff that takes place in the Alaska region. And in 1968, built himself a little one-room dry cabin in the middle of nowhere, about 200 miles due west of Anchorage, and he lived there for the next 30 years. From Alone in the Wilderness, Richard Proenneke, born in the state in 1916. And by the way, Megan, if you're watching this from Michigan, I want my DVDs back. I loaned my DVDs to Megan, and then she moved. Audrey Hepburn, born in this state in 1929. We lost Audrey Hepburn, about 30 years ago at the age of 63. She's one of the very few with an EGOT, Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. We love her. We miss her. Wait Until Dark. What a great movie. Scary as hell. Audrey Hepburn, born in the state in 1929. And Rory McIlroy from Northern Ireland. I checked this morning. He's the number 7th ranked player in the world. A 4-time major champion, but he still doesn't have a Masters. Every time he plays the Masters, all he has to do is win a Masters, and he'll have the career Grand Slam. Rory is 37 years old today and playing pretty good golf, too. 33 minutes after the hour, a brand new opinion from Mad Dog Mignotti. You've never seen it because we've never aired it. Jefferson Robbins sat down with Alana Maynor from the Rural People's Voice up in Okanagan County, a conversation you don't want to miss. But first of all, Tessa the dog needs a home. It's Pause for Pets.
Hi, my name's Corley, and I'm with the Wenatchee Valley Humane Society. I'm an animal care associate, which means I get to work with these guys all day long. And this is Tessa. She is a 2-year-old pit bull mix, and she is one of my personal favorites. She originally came to us as a stray, and she won my heart immediately when I first took her for a walk, and she grabbed her stuffed animal to go with us. She's just an absolute joy. She seems to do well with children. She even had a little 4-year-old kid step on her tail and she didn't react. And she's just a really happy-go-lucky dog who gets along great with other dogs. We have her in play group with a bunch of our others for most of the day. We're not sure how she does with cats, but she's not very prey-driven, so we think she might be fine, but we're not sure. If you think that you might want to meet Tessa, come by anytime between 11 and 6, Thursday through Tuesday. We are closed for quiet hour between 1:30 and 2:30, but come on by.
Give them a call at 509-662-9577 or visit their website at wenatcheehumane.org.
You are ready to earn your BSN degree, and we know you need a special place to take the next step in your career. You are an engaged learner who needs modern labs and equipment, hands-on support, and small class sizes. You're a busy adventurer who needs trees, mountains, rivers, and trails. As a learner, as a future RN, as an adventurer, find it in the BSN program at Wenatchee Valley College.
The newest generation of GMC Sierra pickups offer the most advanced technology, the strongest selection of powertrain, and everything else you need to work hard, play hard, and explore the boundaries of the Wenatchee Valley and beyond. Take a look at the latest, most luxurious and durable trucks on the market.
You will see why GMC is not your grandfather's pickup.
You want to bet, kid?
Castle Rock International is the Northwest premier real estate agency for large acreage properties, farms and ranch land, lodging and resorts, and other distinctive commercial real estate. Professional, knowledgeable, and discreet, Castle Rock International has the listings and the buyers you have been looking for. Contact John McNamara at Castle Rock International today, or visit their website for more information on this award-winning company.
Hey there folks, Blueberry Carrie here to invite you on out to experience Blueberry Hills. Of course, the food is fabulous, like our cheese splints, our famous French dip, our legendary Eggs Benedict, and unforgettable burgers. But we're more than just great food. People come from all over the world to experience what's been called one of the best destination restaurants in the Pacific Northwest. So come on out and see what all the fuss is about. Blueberry Hills in Manson. It's where the world is coming to.
This is Mike Mad Dog McNally, and everybody is entitled to my opinion. Now, there's a trend in evangelical Christianity called compartmentalism. This theory says that even though men or women, they're different, but they have complementary roles and responsibilities in marriage, even though they're equal in the eyes of God. There's just different roles in family life and religious leadership. Well, that sounds nice, doesn't it? Well, actually, no, because what this theory is saying in plain English, that men are still the boss and women are subservient. Interestingly, this goes in the face of numerous biblical examples of women who are leaders, teachers, and apostles. It also goes into the face of Jesus' demonstration of respect for women and their spiritual astuteness, which usually exceeded that of the men Jesus dealt with. Now, despite my long-time involvement in dealing with domestic abuse issues, I still stand amazed and chagrined at the lengths we men will go to keep women in subjection and not fully recognize their worth in our lives, particularly with those who claim to follow Jesus' example. This is Mike Mad Dog Magnati, and that's my opinion.
It's barbecue chicken pizza season. That means break out the patio furniture, dust off those jorts, pick up an Abby's Pizza, and head to your favorite outdoor spot. I mean, hey, the great outdoors isn't going to enjoy itself, right? Blue skies and pizza go together like, well, barbecue chicken and pizza. That's why it's time to enjoy an Abby's original barbecue chicken pizza at a very special price. Abby's, a legendary pizza tradition.
In the market for an RV? Do not buy any RV before you shop Click It RV. Because Click It RV has just acquired over 300 2022 fifth wheels, travel trailers, toy haulers, and motorhomes. And every one is just $199 over invoice. And take advantage of 0 down, no payments for 90 days, and low interest financing. Plus guaranteed lowest price and lifetime warranty. So don't miss the Click It RV Do Not Buy sale. Going on now at all 5 locations, including right here in Moses Lake.
NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization, dedicated to building better lives for the millions of Americans affected by mental illness. NAMI envisions a world where all people affected by mental illness live healthy, fulfilling lives supported by a community that cares. We have resources for you and can't wait to become an extension of your family. We are here for a healthier world. We are here for better mental health. We are here for each other. Join us.
It may seem like the political season is a long way away, but there are groups on the ground trying to make ready for campaigns that are still to come. One of those people is Alana Maynor with Rural People's Voice, a campaign based in Okanagan County. Alana, thanks for being here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and your background and how you came to become co-director of Rural People's Voice.
Well, I live in Okanagan County, and Rural People's Voice is actually a pretty new organization. We're really in our 3rd year and our 2nd year of programming, but I myself have been a social worker my whole life. I mean, I started working in homeless shelters when I was 18, and grew up in Eastern Washington. I was born in Chewelah. Like, Eastern Washington is my DNA. And for 7 years, I ran a nonprofit, a social service organization out in Okanagan County. In the last couple of years of work there, we had so many folks who walked through the door that worked 40 hours a week and just still couldn't make ends meet, much less plan for their retirement or feel like they had the confidence that they had enough money to put their kids through school. So, we talked to a lot of our representatives and started to kind of pivot our approach as an organization and talk to more of our elected leaders about how to get the folks that we were talking to every day more of what they need. And I will say, kind of regardless of political orientation, most of the people that we talked to wanted the same things. They wanted to be able to afford their prescription drugs. They wanted health care. They wanted child care. They wanted caregivers they could afford. They wanted reliable housing. It was just so clear throughout that period. And, again, I'm from here, but the ground beneath rural people is eroding. So we started thinking about what are the bigger tectonic shifts that help us build the kind of power that rural people really need, especially rural working families. And we decided to start to develop leadership, help people win seats, and try to put the roots into organizing that help rural people get together and have more collective power.
What was your first experience in a political campaign?
I left my job and we ran Adrian Moore for state representative in 2020. And we ran that campaign to win, but we also ran it as an organizing campaign, really to learn about kind of what we're up against in rural Washington, what it takes to win a seat, genuinely what rural people really need. The campaign was unique. We had 40 young people who called themselves the future of the 12th that were part of the campaign. We had 100 neighborhood captains who each took on a list of 50 voters and contacted them 5 times just to talk to them about the issues that mattered most to them. So that campaign really did help us. We talked about it as like a lightning bolt. When it hit the ground, it sort of helped us illuminate, who is organizing in rural Washington? Who is the base of people that are already activated? What are our shared values? And in that way, there was so much that we won from that campaign. It also gave us the foundation of our first steering committee. So we have right now we have 35 steering committee folks who make decisions about the candidates that we get behind. They make decisions about endorsements, they make decisions about recruitment, and they participate in lots of different ways.
And your roots are in Okanagan County, but you are interested in helping people to organize for political office throughout North Central Washington.
It's true, yeah. We are in Okanagan County, but there is no doubt that North Central Washington is deeply connected. Not just by the Columbia River, but by our economies, by our communities, by our demographics. So the region itself has so much connectivity. And so we focus in Chelan, Douglas, and Okanagan County.
So it sounds like as a social worker, you were seeing people encountering just a lot of headwinds, trying to get ahead or make ends meet. And did you feel like, well, if I want to really make a difference, the social work is good on the receiving end, but let's try to do policy changes that address these problems before they become a crisis for people.
I think that's right on. And some nuance in both how we approach our work and in that story is that the folks that we talked with every day, the difference between them and me is about an inch, right? I mean, there's a lot of working class people who are struggling to make ends meet, and then a lot of middle class people who feel like they could slip down the ladder at any moment. And these are the same folks that I grew up with. It's the same people that I call community now. And it's true. I love that concept of the headwinds coming at us. The headwinds are really strong, and in the end of the day, we've been told multiple times that the pathway to power doesn't go through rural Washington. And I think that political abandonment or sort of neglect of investment in rural Washington is told through every struggle we see, if it's a mental health crisis, the way substance abuse affects our community, or crime and reporting, which I heard you say is increasingly part of your job out here.
All the time.
Yeah.
And I think there's a regional identity question too, because rural people might see their own problems and say, well, the cause is over there.
Mm-hmm.
The cause is in the city, the cause is on the west side of the state. And maybe to a certain extent that's true. Olympia is on the west side of the state, and your goal is, I think, ultimately to have people headed to Olympia who can help people in the rural areas.
Yeah. We also get sold a lot of stories out here about who is to blame. And I think some of those stories are, they're misleading, but they're also meant to divide working families, because it keeps an economic system in place where, the rich get richer and richer and richer. And you don't have to convince any rural person of that, They can see that, billionaires are richer than they've ever been at any moment in their life, while working families feel like they're struggling more than they have before.
Is there a challenge in organizing politically in rural areas just because of the rural nature? I mean, there's so much distance between people and distance between small communities. How do you sort of bridge those distances when you are trying to motivate people to think politically?
I mean, it's true. I mean, Okanagan County, where I live, is the most rural county in Washington state, right? I mean, it's got 45,000 people and it's the size of Rhode Island. So that distance is real, and I think part of an organizing model that's successful recognizes and holds true that there's natural leaders within every community. We talk a lot about who is our base at Rural People's Voice, and our base of folks are the natural leaders in every individual area that we continue to build connection and real belonging within a movement like Rural People's Voice within or across. Same with our steering committee, they're from Tonasket to Pateros out to Leavenworth and Chelan, Wenatchee. And those kinds of routes help us rely less on 2 to 3 people and instead start to rely on a network of people who really want to come together and help build a better future.
So what issues do you find reach across geographic distance? When you encourage people to run for office, do you offer them something to focus on? Do you say this should be your issue, or this is what's in front of your constituency?
We have what we call our kind of Rural People's Platform, and that platform came from thousands of listening conversations, initially in Adrian's 2020 legislative campaign, and then we've built on it through lots of listening sessions, community events, and that platform really reflects the issues that matter most to most people. But every race obviously has its own sphere of issues that it's most connected to, but we get behind candidates who support that platform. And broadly speaking, the platform includes things like good childcare, or great schools no matter what your zip code is, or housing that's untethered from a market that serves only the wealthiest. You could even see like a housing market that ensures that kids can come back to the communities that they were raised in. It talks about clean land and clean water. So things that most of us care about. But one of the things that I think we've learned a lot when supporting candidates is that obviously if you think about school boards, you think about PUDs, there's a scope of issues that we see connected to those positions, but most of these seats have so much overlap with so many of the elements of that platform. Like last year we worked on a PUD race in Okanagan County, and the candidate was a residential plumber who's just incredible, genuinely. I mean, just such a great human. And I would go with him when he knocked on doors, and he would knock on doors and introduce himself and say, "How you doing?" He would check in with people, and he would ask about what they think about the PUD. And then he would talk about what he thinks the PUD could do, right? And at the heart of his whole platform was, he wants to see the PUD helping with weatherization of homes so that our electric rates can actually stay low, but also we can be safer from fire and safer from smoke and safer from heat. And he wants the PUD to be leading in broadband, and he wants those weatherization jobs to be great jobs. So this PUD leader, who's ostensibly running for a position that has to do with electricity and a few other things, is actually out there trying to win things like great jobs. And he's trying to close the gap between an elected leader and everyday folks just in the way he's campaigning, right? Which is knocking on doors and talking to people. And he's talking about our homes and weatherization. And frankly, the root of that is housing, right? Which is, I don't think anyone would contest this. It is, one of the biggest issues facing North Central Washington, period.
Really?
So I do think there's so much overlap across the platform, regardless of what seat you're running for. And the more we can start to see the connectivity, and the more we can ask our candidates to challenge what is the status quo in their seats, I think the better we're served in the long run.
Has a candidate associated with Rural People's Voice made office to this point?
Yes, we've supported a few candidates. Last year we supported 5, which was really our first year of endorsements. So we've had 2 out of the 5 made it forward. One of the things we talk a lot about too is when you run for office, you get a megaphone, right? It's a platform that you get to stand on. So win or lose, we want candidates to be winning something. If you're running for office, if you're running for county commissioner, you're running for town council, and you lose that race, but along the way, you talked about housing in ways that challenged what the status quo is about housing, or you talked about good jobs and what it takes to bring them here, or you talked about building sidewalks in South Wenatchee. That's something that we win when someone got the microphone. So, I think as we continue to build our skill and our capacity, we don't just endorse and recruit candidates. We actually do get in the race and help them win if they go through our full endorsement process.
We've talked about Rural People's Voice in the context of Okanagan County and the Methow Valley, but you've had candidates elsewhere. Arlette Lopez Rodriguez was probably the youngest candidate I've ever heard of for Wenatchee School Board. She didn't advance in that race, but she's still a force to be reckoned with, and she's still working with Rural People's Voice at this time.
Yeah, Arlette was our community organizer last year. Now she's helping us with canvassing, which is really kind of going door to door and talking to people about what issues are biggest for them. And she's on our steering committee.
So Rural People's Voice also has an action fund, a political action committee. So how do you decide where to spend your dollars for endorsement or for candidates that you believe in?
Again, we leaned on our steering committee to help us set the criteria around who we were going to get behind. Because the decisions of the organizations should be the decisions of people who are most affected by the outcomes of these races. So our political action committee is really relatively small. When we think about the scope of investments we make, we look through lots of criteria. One, we think about whether or not they align with what we call kind of the profile of a people's leader. So are they going to work to refuse to divide us? Do they have skin in the game? Like, do they know what it's like to wear the shoes of everyday folks? Are they going to choose people over and over again instead of profits for a few people at the top? So we look at their alignment with people's profile. We look at the importance of the race and the significance of the seat. We look at how viable the race is and whether or not the candidate has an opportunity to win. Sometimes we look at the dangerousness of the opponent. And when I say dangerous, I think there are definitely some folks who run for office. They usually don't win in North Central Washington, but sometimes they run for office in ways that I think can bring more chaos and more division in a community. And then the other piece we look at is the role of Rural People's Voice. So sometimes people run for office and they've got an incredible network of people, they've got lots of skill and experience, and our role is less important than it would be in another race.
One of the reasons you're able to visit with us today in Wenatchee is because you're getting ready for your candidate and campaign training sessions that are coming up.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, so May 6th we'll have one in Omak, and May 7th we'll have one in here in Wenatchee. Now the intention of them is to really offer sort of campaigning 101. And it'll be for any interested candidates now or interested candidates in the future, as well as campaign volunteers. It's a sad reality that if you volunteer in a campaign, it's really hard work. And oftentimes people burn out, and then we end up starting from scratch again the next time over. So we're thinking about ways that we can bring more people into campaigns and support them across time, have a sense of connection and investment in them so that we've got more folks who can show up and actually position our candidates to do the work we need them to do, which is talk to people, right? It's go to the doors and listen and do as much as they can to both represent what folks need and, like we said, use their megaphone to talk about issues that people really care about.
How can people get involved with those sessions if they want to?
Yeah, they can go to check out our website, ruralpeoplesvoice.org, or send me an email, Alana@ruralpeoplesvoice.org, and we'll get them signed up.
Alana Maynor, co-director with Rural People's Voice. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Jefferson. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
You're watching the NCW Live channel.
At Local Myth Pizza, we believe in real food, freshly prepared with only premium ingredients. Our cheeses are imported from Italy. Our sauces, dressings, and even our sausages are made in-house fresh daily. Featuring Northwest craft beers and 30 Chelan Valley wines and ciders. Family fun and amazing food. Eat local, drink local, and be local at Local Myth Pizza.
Come see why Sunset Magazine says you can't beat Local Myth Pizza.
It's the Smoke on the Water All-Class Car Show, Saturday, May 20th in Manson on the shores of Lake Chelan.
Admission is free.
See it all. Classic cars, hot rods, vintage cars, rat rods, trucks, and imports. Enter your vehicle Friday at the pre-registration party at Wine Girl Wine starting at 3, or enter online at moretomanson.com. Smoke on the Water All-Class Car Show in Manson, May 20th.
Sponsored by Jerry's Auto Supply.
And presented by Wine Girl Wines and the Manson Chamber of Commerce.
All right, 58 minutes after the hour, some breaking news for you folks who live along the south shore of Lake Chelan. South Lakeshore Road is closed at milepost 16. Look for the red line there. That's just past Hale Road on Lake Chelan. So because South Lakeshore Road is closed at that area, so is Shady Pass Road. What's going on? Water from the 25-mile creek has gone up against a big old log jam near the state park, and now it's flowing over the roadway on South Lakeshore Road, and that makes the road impassable. So you can't get there from here. If you live above the closure, by the way, you're stuck. Can't go anywhere. If you have an emergency, still call 911, but the road is not passable at this time for residents in that area if you live above the closure. And again, they're going to be working on, Chelan County Public Works is going to be working on whether they can get that log jam near the state park removed. So right now, South Lakeshore Road is closed at milepost 16, just after a Hale Road on Lake Chelan, and Shady Pass Road is also closed because of water from 25 Mile Creek is flowing over the roadway, and you're not supposed to drive in the water. Big transition coming our way. One more day of the really warm stuff. We have a flood watch that goes into effect this afternoon because we're still going to have really warm temperatures, which is going to contribute to the accelerated snow melt. And on top of that, heavy rains are coming our way. From the National Weather Service, one more look at your forecast. 86 today, near record high, but not quite there. So more snow melt. And then here we go. Between the snow melt and the rain, we have a flood watch that goes into effect. Heavy rain will begin overnight tonight. It's going to rain at a pretty good clip. We can get a half an inch of rain, which is a lot of rain for us by this time come tomorrow. It's going to be raining really hard when you get up Friday morning. Rain should taper off Friday evening, but it might be wet for the Les Schwab Classy Chassis Parade, but dry for the Grand Parade. and we will see you tomorrow. Have a good Thursday. Bye-bye.